The technology is moving so fast here that where we are in a couple of years' time, I really don't know. Yes, we will need to scale. Even in 2D, we know that we can treat hundreds of patients off one batch. So we're not working at minimal scale here. We are working at a good scale. The question really is that what is optimal for the cells? Is it to scale up or is it to scale out? Is it better to have more manufacturing sites and keep your production process the same or within a scalable limit, or is it better to switch the technology out? And I think there are arguments for both cases. Definitely moving to closed systems, even in the 2D environment, is becoming more possible now.
Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive with Lindsay Davies. In our previous episode, we explored her remarkable career journey and the science behind stromal cell therapy. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of manufacturing, scale-up challenges, and NextCell's approach to develop therapies. As someone juggling roles at CellTherEx, NextCell Pharma, and QVance, Lindsay brings a unique, multifaceted perspective on what it really takes to bring cell therapies from the lab to the patient. Are you juggling the complexities of CMC development while trying to enjoy the beauty of biotech? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to simplify bioprocessing? Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast, where we're diving headfirst into the very challenges you face. We're breaking it down, demystifying the jargon, and giving you the keys to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, David Brohlman, and I get it. With 15 plus years in the biotech industry, I face the same challenges you do. There's a way to simplify and streamline so you can remove complexity, you can skip trials and errors, deliver without delay your groundbreaking therapy to clinics at market, and still enjoy every single step. Do you want to learn how industry experts and I did it? Grab a cup of coffee and your favorite notebook and pen. Now is the time to take your bioprocessing game to the next level. Let's smarten up biotech. What control strategies have you found particularly successful to control your processes?
I would say at the moment, the morphology of MSCs, they tell you a lot about the cells, especially if you really understand the biology. And that's one reason that at NextCell, we've stayed for the moment with large-scale 2D manufacturing so that we can physically visualize the cells. MSCs, they will change their shape, they will change their cytoskeleton depending on the levels of stress that they feel, the age that they are, all of these different factors. They really do communicate to us visually when we look at them. But one of the other things has been for us this donor variability, and the way that we've overcome that at NextCell is we have a patented selection algorithm. And that allows us to basically grow up different donor MSCs, test them for different abilities and functions that we want them to have clinically. And then we can actually pool them together based on how we scale them and rank them according to these abilities, so that the pooled product that we generate at the very end, which is generated from 5 different umbilical cord donors, actually allows us to take down that donor variability and batch-to-batch variability to a very small level, meaning our product is reproducible again and again.
And is there a way that you can validate that? Because you will have a variability. I mean, from donor to donor, you will have some variation. I mean, even in biologics, you have variation. How do you validate that change, or from one batch to another? Is that a discussion with regulatory agencies, or is that a more streamlined process?
It's an open discussion with the regulators, and I would say the regulators are very open to having a discussion because they know that you know the product inside out and much more than they do. So they're looking from the angle of patient safety and quality of the product. In terms of efficacy of the product, that's really us as the drug developer trying to streamline that and ensure that between batches. and they're understanding how you want the cells to work inside the body, or at least have the ability to work inside the body. That's one of the major challenges with any living cell product, is the fact that those cells, once they enter the patient's system, they're surveying that system. They're responding according to what they see. So what they do inside my body would be very different inside of your body. So you can't control every aspect of this because they don't have a pharmacokinetic profile like you would have for a traditional drug. The most important thing is, do they have the potential to do what you need them to do? Can they produce certain proteins? Can they produce certain chemokines, etc., etc.? Do they have the ability to interact with certain immune cells, etc.? These are the things that we can control to ensure the quality of the product being administered.
The addressable patient population of diabetes is huge. So assuming that your candidate is successful, I imagine you're going to have to scale your production massively. So is there a limitation with the 2D culture that at one point you will have to move to a 3D culture or even a suspension culture?
The technology is moving so fast here that where we are in a couple of years' time, I really don't know. Yes, we will need to scale. Even in 2D, we know that we can treat hundreds of patients off one batch. So we're not working at minimal scale here. We are working at a good scale. The question really is that what is optimal for the cells? Is it to scale up or is it to scale out? Is it better to have more manufacturing sites and keep your production process the same or within a scalable limit, or is it better to switch the technology out? And I think there are arguments for both cases. Definitely moving to closed systems, even in the 2D environment, is becoming more possible now. And that takes down a lot of the costs when you reduce things like the requirements under GMP because you're in a closed environment. It takes down the risks of potential contamination. It takes down your labor requirements. So all of these things make a more commercially viable product because you're reducing the costs and then making it more accessible to the patients. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's the ultimate aim that we have here, is to ensure that those patients who need this can access it irrespective of where they are in the world. So yes, we're absolutely always looking. We have a continuous process development program to always look forward thinking on this of where we can go. And I think more and more the developers of these new technologies, they're listening to companies like us that are working with adherent cultures and hearing the challenges we face by moving to suspension-based culture systems or hollow fiber, etc. And there will be, in the very near future, I think, more 2D options that are closed. That means that we can maintain the same product, but a more commercially viable, scalable systems.
The commercial viability is a huge challenge in the ATMP world. What do you think as of today, what we know today, is a scaling up the better solution or scaling out for your product or in general? I'm sure it pretty much depends on the product, but as the kind of discussions you have, would it make more sense to be closer to the patient and have a smaller scale? Would that solve the problem?
For us, it's more of a scaling up, but also combined with a scaling out. And then there's a number of variables here. We particularly have an off-the-shelf product. That means that we can produce at scale. We can have a continuous production workflow and freeze the product. So we don't have to produce on demand, which is a little bit of a luxury that we have for our own product. The challenges that companies like ours face is that when you think about commercialization and a global strategy, is actually the harmonization of regulations across the different jurisdictions in terms of what they will allow for manufacturing, their expectations on how manufacturing is conducted, the source materials that you're allowed to use, the quality control release analytics. All of these things strongly impact your manufacturing process. So at the moment, until we get better harmonization of those legislations, for companies like ours, it really means that scaling out is a necessity to have multiple manufacturing sites in different global locations and that can be closer to the starting material and the requirements of those regulators.
I'd like to focus on the control strategy a bit, because to have a solid control strategy, you need robust analytical methods. And that's also something you're addressing with your other company. Can you elaborate a bit on what approach works particularly well for stromal cells?
Stromal cells, so the quality analytics, as you said, it's really, for us working with cryopreserved products that can be used allogeneically, time is less of the essence compared to a product that's autologous and that has to be released either on a quarantine-based release or something else where the batch size is very small. They have different issues to face than what we have. Our major issues are really linked to the formulation of the product and making sure that the formulation that we use is suitable for the analytical methods, that there's no issues there with compatibility. So one of the unique features, I think, with advanced therapies is that, yes, we do have standardized quality control testings, especially for things like sterility and mycoplasma and endotoxin, but those still have to be very much bespoke, designed to the product to make sure that the formulation, the excipients used, etc., are compatible with those test requirements. Again, depending on the jurisdiction that you're in, the expectations there on what analytics you can use, for example, rapid microbial methods are strongly encouraged across the board, I would say globally, but some regulators are much more cautious in implementing those compared to others. Specifically within Europe, we have to have comparability testing with compendial approved methods. So it's timelines, it's thinking about setting this up for the long term, it's having a long-term strategy for it. It's knowing that you have to be ready to switch out for new tests. It's knowing that your analytics providers, that you will need to have these tests across different sites if you're going to have multiple manufacturing. Are you going to centralize your quality control or decentralize it? All of these kind of questions make you choose the methodologies that you want to use in the future. So long-term strategic development plan.
As we're looking now into the future, Lindsay, can you tell us what you have in the making? How are you going to revolutionize that field, also on the therapy side, but also on the production side? What are the next steps?
Right now at NextCell, we just finished treating the pediatric cohort for our clinical phase 2B trial led out of Uppsala University in Sweden. And we will have that primary endpoint data the second half of next year. And what we've seen in the adult population through our long-term trials is that a single infusion can have at least a 5-year effect here. So we're really hoping that in children that have a much more plastic and malleable immune system, that response will be even greater. So moving forward, we are looking at our phase 3 strategy and trying to get this now to the patients and having a bit more of a commercial strategy here of going to the market. But that also means that we're spending a lot of time on our process development and ensuring compatibility for moving into different jurisdictions and tech transferring our production methodologies across from our current CDMO to additional CDMOs. So really everything from R&D up now to long-term stability to set the shelf life of our product is in play at the moment.
I'm curious, Lindsay, because you are also the Vice President-elect for Europe at ISCT, so International Society of Cell and Gene Therapy. Can you tell us a bit how the European landscape looks like? What are the biggest opportunities right now in the industry and the challenges you see in ATMP?
I think what we see is that Europe is a hotbed of innovation and creation. We've always been really known for our universities and our institutions for bringing new ideas and spinning them out, especially into startups and SMEs. What we're less good at, I would say, is actually taking that product all the way through to commercialization. And a lot of our products and ideas end up being transited across into the North American market for that stage. So our drive really has been to try and increase the investment and infrastructure inside of Europe to keep homegrown products inside of Europe, but also to be a more attractive place for North American and kind of Pan-Asian companies to come into the European marketplace as well. And I think the recent shift in kind of global geopolitics has really opened a door for Europe as a stable market to really showcase what Europe has to offer. And there's been a lot of governmental initiatives here to actually provide funding for the setup of innovation hotbeds and to really encourage that commercialization, have more contract manufacturers, have more vendors inside of Europe to give the opportunities and the needs be addressed to keep our products inside of Europe. So I would say it's an evolution. But Europe, and especially the Nordic regions where I'm based, is where I'm really feeling it. There's a real drive to be global leaders, especially in advanced therapies and new modalities.
As a scientist, you can read every peer-reviewed paper and listen to every podcast, but there is nothing like being in the room with industry peers, where you get new scientific insights, deals get made, and problems get solved. That's exactly why you need to be at the Advanced Therapies Europe 2025, which will take place in Barcelona from September 2nd to the 4th. Connect with 500 plus cell and gene therapy leaders solving the same challenges you face. I'm talking live case studies on cost reduction strategies, direct networking with companies actually implementing these solutions, regulatory insights on distributed manufacturing models, and exclusive collaboration opportunities that you won't find anywhere else. As a Smart Biotech Scientist listener, you will get 20% off with this code SMARTPodcast20, that's SMARTPodcast20. Look, your competition will be there. The question is, will you? Register now. You will find the link in the show notes. Driving this development further and making Europe attractive is one thing. What are the most critical things we should tackle right now, or the changes we should make right now to attract more money, more investors, or infrastructure, whatever we might need to make this happen?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That it's the financing and how we coordinate our financial models that is really the challenge for Europe. I mean, when you think about the EU, you've got a number of different states there, all with different medical systems, some state-run, some more private-run, some more affluent states than others, etc. So having that patient access and a one-size-fits-all commercial model is not going to work. So we really need to move towards better financial models for investment and return on investment as well. And I think here is another bottleneck for advanced therapies, that the product journey then from concept to commercialization is much longer than many traditional drugs. And we're trying to address that, especially with the regulators, with different avenues and pathways for expediting commercialization. But there needs to be, again, more education and understanding there from the specialist investors that this is a longer route to market and a very expensive route to market for these drugs. And then we really need to deal with our reimbursement models for how we're going to pay for these drugs, how we're going to get them into the healthcare systems, and how we're basically going to ensure equal access across the board. And that will mean different pricing strategies. The last thing that we want as developers is to have these as luxury drugs that are only open to those in the right areas of the community. It really is, we want drugs that will address the disease irrespective of where the patient is located.
And on the company level, what are the most common pitfalls you're observing when it comes to transitioning a therapy from research to development and into commercialization?
I think the expectations of those people that have these ideas is really that they need to know it all, that they need to know how to develop an intellectual property strategy, that they need to know how to generate investment, how to run and start a business. And what I would say is that you are an expert in your own field, and we can't all be experts in everything. So it really truly is about networking. It's about creating an environment around you where you spot the gaps in what you need and you draw people in that can help you in those areas. There are many wise people out there. There is no need to kind of reinvent the wheel then. It's about finding the right people to make sure that you don't hit those pitfalls. And I know that funding is very limited, so it is a little bit strategic and a little bit kind of smart about how you're going to get access to funds. And I think there are a number of ways to do that. One thing that I've really like seeing grow has been this kind of sweat equity model where new companies are bringing in experts through giving equity rather than upfront cash payments. And that gets around your cash bottleneck, but brings in the right expertise so that you can pull in that investment and you can really get off the ground. And I think there are different strategies. The regulators are offering scientific advice now very early on so that you can be very strategic and streamlined in your development path so that you don't hit bottlenecks, that you don't hit kind of stops on your timeline, which makes inflection points difficult for investors. There are strategic ways to do this, but it's really knowing and bringing in the right people and networking.
And speaking of the right people, we have a lot of brilliant people in the ATMP space, and a lot of things I'm sure are going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. What is your vision of the industry? What do you see coming and what excites you?
What excites me is seeing more and more of these drugs reaching commercialization now. And that tells me two things. It tells me that we're really showing real world evidence now that these drugs can reach the market, that there are sustainable models for them to exist, that they don't necessarily have to be just drugs in development that fail at the last hurdle. So there's real hope there now, I think, and that will, I hope, drive more investment as investors see that there is a true return to be had. It also means public acceptance. And I think this is most important, that at the end of the day, we're doing this for the patients. But if the patients are fearful of these kind of new types of drugs, then this doesn't help us. So having drugs reach the market, having clinicians want to treat with these drugs, having regulators approve these drugs, give the kind of the strength and the reassurance to the public that they are safe, that we're controlling these new technologies, that we have their safety forefront here. So that's also going to drive us. The technology moves fast. The technology is not the problem anymore. We have digitalization, we have AI, we have automation, and all of these things will step forward in the next 5 to 10 years and hopefully drive down costs as well so that it makes these products more affordable so that, again, more of them can reach the market and not fall into a financial valley of death then. But I think there's so many hope and options here now. And I really hope that in 10 years' time, the discussion that we would be having is more, how do we make these standard line of care rather than just new creations?
Before we wrap up, Lindsay, what burning question haven't I asked that you are eager to share with our biotech community?
I would say what I'm eager to say is that reach out. I would say the ATMP community has been the most warm and welcoming community I've ever worked in, that we are all facing the same challenges and nobody needs to be alone. There are so many options for support out there. There's mentorship. There's societies like the ISCT, which really focuses on bringing in our early stage professionals and growing them up inside this and being the next generation of drug developers so that we never see an end to cell and gene therapies. We only grow and grow. And that's something that I truly feel passionate about, is involving myself in these communities on whatever level I can to ensure the next generation. What I will achieve in my career will be so limited and so small in the grand scheme of things. But if I can support just one or two people, then that impact will grow exponentially.
This has been great, Lindsay. What is the most important takeaway from our conversation?
I think it's the benefit of the network. Don't try to go it alone, that it's only by working together that we will actually see these products reach the market. And it doesn't matter what stage of development you're at, even in large pharma, we see more and more these days partnerships, mergers, etc., as we bring our technology and our ideas together. So I would say It's truly about let's do this together, let's not go it alone, and let's learn from each other and each other's expertise and experiences.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for sharing your expertise, your passion, and your insights. Tell us where people can get a hold of you.
Feel free to get hold of me at LinkedIn. I'm at Lindsay-C-Davies, and I would be happy to connect with people and support where I can.
Smart Biotech Scientist, you'll find all the infos down in the description. Please reach out to Lindsay. And once again, Lindsay, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
What a fantastic journey through the cutting-edge world of cell therapy with Lindsay Davies. Her insights on manufacturing, cost reduction, and the future of stromal cell treatments are truly inspiring. Remember, if you are struggling with process development challenges, book a free consultation at brullmanconsulting.com/call, and I'd love to help you succeed. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred platform, and I'll see you next time. All right, smart scientists. That's all for today on the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on your journey to bioprocess mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. By doing so, we can empower more scientists like you. For additional bioprocessing tips, visit us at smartbiotechscientist.com. Stay tuned for more inspiring biotech insights in our next episode. Until then, let's continue to smarten up biotech.